Show me your moves.
And good evening, goblins, ghouls, and gender-neutral gremlins, and welcome to another episode of Geeklife, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. If you're new to the show, we're about a 2.5-hour mashup of all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about TV, video games, movies, and anything else that makes your mother box tingle. I am your host, the Dodd, the streamer this podcast needs, and not the one it deserves. And joining me today is a renowned ghost hunter and tactical combat expert. That is, if you include Xbox achievements as experience. Comrade Kev is here. How are you doing today, Kev?
Doing fantastic. It's been a while, but I'm in need of some good old conversation with the Geeklife crew and an obvious haircut.
Oh yeah, for real. We're back, season 2. We're here in the building. Also joining us today, after deflecting many bullets from the Snyder cut, Bronwyn the Warrior Princess is here. How are you doing today, Bron?
I'm doing well. I think that we are invisible, though.
Are we invisible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was your ghost comment was very fitting. So.
Yes. That is a great way to do it. Now, if you're hearing us, just bear with us for a second. We got just a little bit of technical difficulties. That's because we have had to do some massive shifts last minute to discover to figure this stream out. So we are fixing that right now, but we may. Okay. All right. While we do, before we do, why don't we just talk a little bit about, how you guys have been surviving the apocalypse lately? I know that this week was a lot of great content stuff to indulge in. How have you been making it, Kev?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Took about watched the Snyder cut last night and this morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long it is caught up. Well, no,
it takes a long time.
Once.
In different parts.
Mm-hmm,
I was like,
right.
is that good?
Yes. And we did that. And then I watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we'll dive into that. And that was pretty much it. Been really getting it back into Breath of the Wild, spending some time with that, and play a little bit Siege with the old comrades. That's about it.
Yeah.
What did you do for the break, Todd?
What did I do for the break?
Yeah.
For the break, I pretty much just dug out as much content as I absolutely could. We've been booming a lot on TikTok. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to check us out on TikTok. We've been doing a lot of content there. And I also made my own personal TikTok account, and I blew up. I got over 82,000 views on one of my TikToks, and it was about a Jesus joke. And I feel like that's put me in a very unique pigeonhole that I don't quite know how to get out of yet. I wasn't going into TikTok just to make Jesus jokes, but I think that's what everybody wants from me now. And like everything else that I give them, they just don't eat up. So we're going to have to make some negotiations on what content I'm making with my 700 viewers that I grabbed from one video. That's what I've been doing over the break.
The price of fame, Dad, right? Like it's
right.
Once you're Iron Man, you're always Iron Man.
Always Iron Man.
Yeah. It was like the Harvey Birdman movie that came out a few years ago, right? What's his name? Michael Keaton.
Yeah. There we are. I'm back at least. You can see me, which is nice. So there we go. And slowly, I'm sure we're eventually all going to get back in here. But
you look
Harvey
great,
Birdman.
by the way.
Harvey Birdman. Thank you. I got a haircut recently from my vaccinated barber who had my haircut outside outside.
I'm
And there's
here.
Kev.
Hello, I'm here.
There's
Kev.
Kev's beautiful mug.
There's Kev's beautiful mug.
And we're just missing one more beautiful mug, and they will be here shortly. But how do you like the new season 2 look here? You know, we got a little bit of the thinner borders. You know, we've got the interactive waiting room here, and we've got the new glitches. You know, glitches you haven't seen before, not those cape glitches. These are different glitches. A bit of an audio echo now. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out. And there's Bronwyn. And there's Bronwyn.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, okay, so we got an echo going on here.
I think it's just on you, Todd.
Is the echoes just on me?
I think we're good now.
Yeah. Whoa, Sad Gaming, what's up? How are you guys doing?
Hey guys.
I think the echo's gone now.
We are in.
Okay.
Cool.
I think the echo is gone. Okay, cool. All right. Now let's get to the real show.
Cool.
Okay. So, without further ado, before we get started, we want to remind everybody, if you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, do all the social media stuff, offer your firstborn child as tribute. I don't know what else do the YouTubers say that you need to do. Do those things. Be sure to share our content if you, are a fan of us. And subscriptions always help us. Those go directly to our pockets, so we like that. And
right.
if you can also find us on any of our personal socials, you can find me at Roose Bane, WRUSE_BANE. And Kev, where can they find you?
Totally awesome.
At Totally Awesome, exactly. And
Yeah,
Brahman, what about
totally
you?
awesome.
You can find me at Space Nymph on Instagram and on Twitch.
Exactly. All right, so we've got a great show planned for you guys now that we've got the technical difficulties out of the way. Kev, why don't you go ahead and hit us with that rundown?
Thanks. Stop, drop, and the rundown. It's time for the rundown. First up, our headline section this week was packed with equally hyped and disappointing news. Gotham Knights isn't getting Cyberpunk this year anyways. Dutch has a plan and it might be coming to the Switch rather than Tahiti. And some anime news for the weeps. But that's not all. For our top story this week, we're talking all things Snyder Cut. I promise it won't be a 4-hour long conversation. Then we're putting on our creator's cap and thinking about the future of Marvel TV shows in a segment we like to call future forecasting. As always, we'll wind down and dive deep in this week's deep dive on the risky business that is the entertainment industry. And finally, we'll wrap things up with our top 10, the most powerful women in Marvel, her story. But that's enough of the foreplay. Let's get down to business. Bron, what do we have in the week's headlines?
Week, Gotham Knights devs announced its delay until 2022. Gotham Knights will no longer be releasing in 2021, the developers announced this week. The DC game that includes playable characters like Batgirl, Red Hood, and more will instead be targeting a 2022 release date with no more specific release window announced beyond that. A message accompanying the announcement of the delay said that the time spent working on the game will ensure the developers are able to deliver the best possible experience for players. Considering the backlash games like Cyberpunk faced, methinks this is a good idea. Next in our news headlines, American Horror Story Season 10 title was revealed this past week. After what feels like a year of hints and teases, American Horror Story Season 10 has finally revealed its title for the unsettling adventure to be a double feature. Creator of the series, Ryan Murphy, confirmed the news on Twitter while revealing that this season will feature 2 different stories as opposed to the one narrative as structure adopted by all previous seasons. This also confirms why his teases for the new season have hinted at distinctly different concepts. Given that American Horror Story is confirmed to run through season 13 and has already had a spin-off series ordered, we can surely expect years more speculation about the horrors Murphy has in store for audiences. Next, Black Panther, the War for Wakanda expansion is coming to Avengers. With the release of Hawkeye, with today's future and perfect content, Marvel's Avenger will have delivered 2 new heroes to the roster since launch, including Kate Bishop. But the plan is for many more to join the team down the road. Heroes like Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and more have been teased in the world, and others have been teased due to concept art making its way online. Thanks to Square Enix new Square Enix Presents event, we have much more of a direct tease of who is headed to the game next week. Game next. And we got the reveal that is finally Black Panther's time to shine in the game. We also got to look at Wakanda and how Black Panther will fit into the story. The expansion is titled War for Wakanda and is coming to the game later this year. Up, yeah.
Right.
Up next is author Morgan coming to Smash. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's next 2 DLC characters have reportedly been leaked, courtesy of a Smash Bros. Leaker with a little bit of a track record. The Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite game added Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 this month, which means Fighters Pass Volume 2 has 2 vacancies left. According to the aforementioned leaker, one of these spots will be filled by Dante from Devil May Cry, a character many players are surprised hasn't been added yet. Joining Dante will supposedly be Arthur Morgan, the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2, a character nobody was or is expecting. The leak comes the way comes the way of Twitter user Archer, who notably relayed word of Sephiroth's edition before Nintendo announced the DLC character at the Game Awards 2020. Of course, accurately relaying word of a DLC character before they are revealed automatically gives you credibility, but the fact that it was Sephiroth is even more notable. Sephiroth's edition came out of left field, and prior to the reveal, not many had the character on their DLC bingo card. But guess we'll have to wait and see when the new character comes out later this year. In other news, GTA Online is broken and fans aren't happy about it. Yesterday, Rockstar Games released a new GTA Online update across PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. As the patch notes reveal, the update didn't do much other than drastically reduce the load times of this game. What the patch notes didn't reveal is all the problems the update was going to cause PlayStation and Xbox players. Over on the GTA Online Reddit page, players have been complaining about the update and reporting various issues. On Xbox, the reports have ranged from issues with crashing to issues with NAT and connection. Meanwhile, on PS4 and PS5, players have reported issues with the update not downloading. Of course, the update not downloading is a major inconvenience, but most of the problems have been on Xbox One and Xbox Series XS. In fact, the problems were so substantial that this morning, Rockstar Games released a new patch on Xbox consoles that reverted yesterday's update. In other words, the patch returned the game to its state prior to yesterday's update, which in turn has fixed the connection issues. That said, players aren't too happy. Not only are there lingering issues on both platforms that remain unfixed, but fans are perplexed how such a broken update was released in the first place. Whether it's on Reddit, Twitter, or the game's forums, there's been considerable criticism and backlash. Lastly, in our top stories, US release date for Demon Slayer is announced. The news we've all been waiting for has come through at last. After debuting in Japan last fall, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaba has put out the US premiere date of its first movie. The anime will bring its record-breaking film to theaters in North America starting April 23rd, before home video options roll out later this summer. The announcement went live not long ago thanks to the official English page for Demon Slayer. It was there the team confirms the anime will hit up theaters in North America late next month. Currently, pre-orders for tickets have yet to pop up, but fans will want to keep up with their local theaters to see when the sale goes live starting April 9th. My birthday. Wow. If you if, thank you. If you feel okay seeing the film in theaters, Demon Slayer's movie will be shown in IMAX as well as 40X if you're willing to pay up. And if you're still waiting for COVID-19 to dissipate in your area, the movie will be shared on digital at the end of June. That's our news for the day, folks. How are you feeling about our stories, Dawn and Kev?
At the beginning there that you were talking about. I mean, obviously that was a game I wanted to see come out this year. We'd gotten a chance to actually talk about it on one of the things that we were most hyped up for 2021 was Gotham Knights. I think that was solidly up there on the countdown. So that's going to be definitely disappointing to see, you know, that's not going to be coming out for a while. But Braun, have you ever checked out American Horror Story? Are you stoked for this new season? Yeah.
I love American Horror Story, and I always find their seasons when they do try to push the boundaries of the format of it gets really interesting. Like one of my favorite seasons was it called like Roanoke, where they sort of did that like true crime kind of style where they had the real cast. Hmm. Uh-huh. Mhm. So I feel like this double feature thing could be cool. I'm kind of still confused as to what it really is, but I feel like they want us to be.
Kev,
Mhm.
how do you feel about Arthur Morgan coming to Smash? Red Dead
You know,
coming to Switch confirmed?
you know, I'm not. The Red Dead coming to Switch is cool. I'm not gonna play it just because I think that's a game that needs to be played on like
Yeah.
the Xbox or PC. Graphically speaking, I'm happy for it. Like for people who've never played this game, it's a fucking fantastic game. But Arthur Morgan being in Smash would be amazing. Like I don't even know how to conceptualize that, but I'm here for it.
Like I just don't know. Once you get to the more
it's
exotic characters that you're throwing in there, I feel like there's so many characters that got shafted for this character to get in there, you know?
Oh well, yeah, for sure. But I think Waluigi, I think that's the point. I think Nintendo does this on purpose. Like they could
That's what
easily
I
put
think.
Waluigi in.
Mhm.
Like, there's no reason for him not to be in there other than they just want to piss Nintendo fans off.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's exactly where they're at, especially that's why they're their assist trophy, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
you know, the other big news that they were talking about there was Black Panther coming to Avengers, and that being enough to maybe possibly revitalize this. I have seen some more promotions for Avengers, and I've seen some people genuinely looking to return to stuff. And with some of these
Yeah.
comeback games recently, you know, Battlefront 2 being such a horrible, horrible game,
Yep.
and then coming back from the grave the way it has,
Yep.
you know, it makes me think, is there a potential for this to happen with Avengers? And some of the first shots that we saw, you know, I mean, there's never been a video game where you got to play inside Wakanda ever that I
That's
can
true.
think of, you
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
unless it's like a Lego game, especially not to this detail, not to this level. And so I
No.
think being able to play as Black Panther and going to actually go into Wakanda might be a very, very interesting experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. I mean, I think they're trying everything at this point to get people back into playing this game. I still have yet to play it just because there's not that thing that's going to real. I'm sure it'll come eventually, like you said, Battlefront 2, right? Like that. I played that eventually, but it was $6. So I was like, I can't pass this up. So maybe I don't think it had to be that drastic per se. I mean, I'm just saying if it does get to that point, I'll for sure download it. But for now, I just think they got to keep cranking out content and fixing the game, and hopefully they can get it to what it's supposed to be. And that just goes back to like what we were talking about, how we're saying we're bummed over Gotham Knights. As long as this game comes out
Mhm.
fully fleshed out and being what it needs to be at launch, I'm fine with it being delayed. I think sometimes these games come out far too often too soon, sooner than what they're supposed to be, just because they're not done yet.
Mhm. And then they
Yeah.
want to charge you for all the DLCs.
Yeah, all the DLC, all the updates and stuff. I mean, yeah,
All the
yeah.
I mean, well, the thing
Hmm.
about it is these updates for Avengers are supposed to be free, and it was supposed to be
Yeah.
the idea for the Avengers game was that they were going to create a content that created DLC content that was kind of like a comic book storylines, essentially.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like a comic book series would have more people, you know, more instances of different storylines trailing off from it, and that's what they kind of envisioned from the beginning. And they were kind of bummed when people didn't buy onto that. They're like, no, we want a lot of content to go through right at the get-go before you start throwing out DLC to keep us interested. So I don't know. Not too worried about it being a pay for play kind of thing where people are going to be like, oh, I have to get all the DLC now to get caught up. I am more worried that like I've just deleted it off my PlayStation in general, you know, and so like I have to make the choice of, do I want to re-download this?
It was wasting
and then
space.
with all
yeah.
And then with all the like, you know, the bugs I've been hearing with like trying to like migrate the data from your PS4 save to your PS5 game, apparently that's been a huge nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Excuse me.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, how's GTA still a thing? I mean, you know what? Never mind. I'm not surprised.
yeah, I mean, so I see GTA a lot on Twitch, but mostly people going through and doing these obscure car courses and like really tricky kind of things of that nature. That's really the main thing I see with GTA. I haven't seen and role playing. Role playing is huge with GTA. So, you know,
it's kind of weird, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
What do you mean role playing?
Like literally, like, you know, you drive around in GTA in a cop car and you pretend you're a cop, and like someone else has to, if you talk to them, you know, they gotta make up a story on the spot. And there will be servers that they have that if people break character, they'll boot you out of the server. Like they're serious about it. Like it's not a joke thing. And they're it's meant for entertainment on Twitch mostly. You know, people will download character models and they'll be like Rick. It'll be like Rick and Iron Man or something like that, you know, and it'll be like two random characters that would never be associated together having a conversation. And so sometimes it can be interesting, but
Kate
you know,
just said in the chat that he got banned from a GTA server because he didn't stay in character.
See, they don't play.
That's a Kate.
They don't play.
Classic Kate.
It does feel very classic Kate though.
yeah.
Like,
Kate,
you got to stay in character. Like, I don't want to.
I'm not surprised that the game kind of like, you know, hit shit the bed though when they did all this updates for the, I guess, can we call them current gen consoles yet? Whatever, the Series X and the PS5, right? Like I think because you're trying to upscale something from 2 consoles ago, basically, and that just doesn't seem like it's going to work very well. Like that, for instance, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition that's coming out in May is going to be made for the Xbox One and PS4 because they had the issue of kind of trying to scale it up from the 360 and PS3 to the current consoles, and this wasn't working right. So, not surprised at all by that.
Yeah. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. But that isn't the only story we have in our headlines section. No, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Snyder Cut. Our top story is none other than the Snyder Cut releasing all of its glory. Rumors of the Snyder Cut Justice League rippled through social media from the minute the 2017 version came out and went into theaters. Zack Snyder was behind most of the hype, teasing what his expanded version might look like, at everything from press rounds for Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Edition to his Vero account. His cut of the movie, the real movie, was 4 hours long and full of backstory for Cyborg, Flash, Steppenwolf, and even Darkseid, who didn't even show up in the Justice League version. Like its heroes, the Snyder Cut has become a mythical entity, only to become fully realized over the course of 2020 by the content-hungry HBO Max, and a reported $17 million budget bump and a half-year-long pandemic-timed crunch by multiple visual effects venues. Zack Snyder's 4-hour-long version of the Justice League is now a real thing and is available to stream in its perpetuity, in its entirety, on HBO Max. And boy, has it been getting some mixed reviews. Rotten Tomato fan score at 96 with the thermometer meter at 74, compared to the Whedon's cut, which fans gave it a 71, while the thermometer meter gave it rotten 40%. IGN gave Snyder a favorable review, 8 out of 10, while GameSpot was quick to shit on it massively with a 3 out of 10. Now, Bronwyn, I know that you've had much too much going on in your life to sit down for a 4-hour movie. So I know that most of this is just reactionary for you. Now,
Oh, I'm
Kev,
excited.
you and I are enough of
Yeah,
losers that we didn't have enough going on in our lives and could sit down for said 4-hour movie. I had to split mine into a
1000%.
couple of sessions, but what are your first thoughts?
So, yeah. So me and my girlfriend were stayed up watching it. Like we started at like 8 last night, and we finished around. Well, we didn't finish. We stopped at like 1.
Yeah.
So we left with like an hour left, and then we finished this afternoon. But our first initial thoughts was, wow, this could have been 2 movies.
Yeah.
And then
That
after
was
that, I
my
was like,
first thought
wow,
too.
this is really good. You know, like
Right.
it was great. I was really pleased with it. And um you know, it could have. I'm gonna call it the mini series, right? Because it could have been like each individual part, the way it's broken up, could have been an episode if we're being
Right.
honest. And maybe who knows? That's the way of the future. But I I really thoroughly I hated the first Justice League movie. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I thought it was trash. I was offended by it, not because of it wasn't true to like the comic. It was just bad. Like nothing made sense.
Yeah.
Everything felt rushed. Like watching the Snyder's cut, like it even made me more. It even made me more upset at the first one because I'm like, okay, all this stuff. I get why this is 4 hours long because one, they're trying to rush. They're not going to admit it, but they're trying to rush and catch up to what Marvel was doing, right, with the Avengers stuff and this MCU.
Right.
So ultimately, what you get is rush products, i.e., Batman versus Superman and the original Justice League movie, where nothing makes sense, and there's all these things that you wouldn't understand unless you were like one super knee deep in comics from the get go, and even if you were just like had basic cinematic theory principles, you would know there's just so many plot holes and continuity issues that happened in the first movie that just didn't make sense. So many pointless, like, things that were going on. And then
Right.
this one, the Snyder's Cut, I feel like they really redeemed that, I think. My only issue with it really was just that it was too long.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I think the epilogue did drag on a bit long.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think there was parts of that were really unnecessary, but I
Yeah.
feel like if Snyder got the chance to run with it, might as well show the entirety of what he wanted his vision to be. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that, again, if you have the time, might as well run with it.
Right.
I was very
That
impressed
and
with,
the aspect ratio. I don't know
yeah,
what was up.
I
I
don't get
didn't look
that.
into it, but I think it was something to preserve the quality of the film. I don't know what that meant
Yeah,
per
it made it
se.
feel
Yeah.
very different than a movie, though. I'll tell you that much. And I think that
Yeah.
there was one. First off, some of my first thoughts are, holy shit, Zack Snyder did Wonder Woman so much better than Patty Jenkins did. For the
Yeah.
most part,
Yeah.
other than the first movie, um, the way that Zack Snyder did Wonder Woman, I think this was a much cooler, much more interesting, much more dynamic Wonder Woman than we got in Wonder Woman 84. Um,
Yeah.
you also really, really see what Ray Fisher was talking about in
Yes.
so
Yeah.
much detail. Like, this is a huge point that I want to make, because Ray Fisher was screaming about stuff for a while, and like so much so that we had to decide on whether or not we were going to report on it or we weren't going to report on it, because it was just going on for so long that it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like, is this old news? But no, he's coming out with more stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to look back on that time, because if you look at this movie, you see how much of Cyborg was removed out of spite, and to
Yeah.
the point where stuff didn't even make sense
That's what I was talking
with,
about. Like Cyborg being in the movie didn't make sense after they were
right.
done with him.
And he didn't fit in at all, and his importance
Yeah.
to the whole team didn't make sense at all. These characters didn't fit in at all, and it was, and now that you look back on it and you know that it was because Josh Whedon was a shithead to him on set, and Ray Fisher
Yeah.
wouldn't take it, then
Yeah.
you and it's not like you can't sit there, and even if you're trying to be an asshole and say, well, Ray Fisher's the one that's really being the asshole, right? He's just picking on Josh Whedon. Well, then why didn't Snyder say that? Why didn't Snyder
Right.
have all these problems with him?
That's
And
true.
he
Well, not
did.
only that, I think Joss Whedon's had a history. Like, there's
He
been a couple
has,
rumblings with
right, right.
how he's treated some of his talent.
And so I think that, um, it would, one of the things that one of my first reactions to it was a little bit of anger at how much how dirty Cyborg had been done, because the Snyder
Yeah.
cut, Cyborg is a big part of the story,
He's
a
integral.
huge part of the story, integral. And
Which is also dumb because in the original one, he was also integral part in the story, but
he
you didn't know
was,
why.
but nobody
Like,
knew why. You didn't
right.
get these explanations. And I remember going through parts where like, oh, we saw this part in the movie. And then as soon as I would say that, there would be a whole nother scene that goes into immense
Mhm.
detail. And I go, oh,
Yeah.
but we didn't get this, you know?
Right. Right.
Brahman, I know you
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to see it. What are some of your questions?
Well, I think you've touched on some of them, but like this is just the burning question on my mind. So what was it better than the Whedon cut?
It was much better than the Whedon cut, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I do think I agree with Kev. This could have been two movies. It's kind of funny to me that once we watched Avengers Part 1, we go, oh, they couldn't have put it all in one movie. And then after we see the Snyder cut, we're
Yeah.
like, oh, they couldn't have made this two movies, you know?
Yeah.
But I do feel
Yeah.
that way about this. I do
Mhm.
feel that it should have been, you know, Justice League, you know, uh, Rise of Steppenwolf, and then Justice League Dark Side Strikes Back. I don't know, you know.
Because there was one point in time, I'm trying to remember, I forget after which part, but it was like the movie could have ended there, and that would have been like basically your cliffhanger for the second Snyder cut. I think it
Right.
was like, it's either right before they were going to get the third mother box, if they had lost it, I forget. It might have been like right after they had lost it or
Yeah.
something. It was, but it was,
But you
yeah,
remember
but
these parts of the film now because they were big and important, you know, just like
mhm,
Atlantis getting robbed of the mother box, and like the whole scene where
yeah,
they lost the mother box was completely different, you know.
yeah,
And it was
yeah,
just Steppenwolf was so much more fleshed out. I mean, he was this
mhm,
character who was very, very powerful, but he was
yeah,
also like, I don't know a better word to describe him, but a simp for Darkseid. That's what he just like what he's
he
just like,
was,
just for
yeah, he
Darkseid,
was,
I just need to get your favor,
yeah,
and like that was,
yeah,
and to see him fluctuate from that groveling person that's trying to go for redemption to, you know, someone who wants to who actually can take on the Justice League. I mean, you see him at numerous points taking on multiple members of the Justice League at once. Um, and that shows just his sheer raw
yeah,
power. You
yeah,
got so much more development out of Steppenwolf.
yeah,
Um, there
yeah,
was so there was a bunch of Easter eggs to talk about too. Ryan Choi is
yes,
a person that Dr. Choi was mentioned in the movie. Ryan Choi is actually one of the Atoms, who eventually gets his stuff from Ray Palmer. Like learns how to do the whole shrink suit from him and all that kind of stuff. But basically, we got an introduction to him. The Lantern
yeah,
cameo was pretty obvious. Even more obvious in the Snyder cut. You had Martian Manhunter. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it yet.
yeah,
Darkseid, Granny Goodness. I don't know if you caught Granny Goodness in there,
mhm,
sitting right by Darkseid's side. And
yeah,
even Ben Parker made an Easter egg. I don't know if you guys caught
he
this, but
did,
on the tombstone where when Flash was thrown into the memorial, you can see Ben Parker's name on the memorial, which is really weird because
yeah,
that's Spider-Man from Spider-Man's uncle from the Marvel universe.
Mhm.
That's two different separate universes. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of stuff, a lot of stuff to get into with the Snyder cut. Brahma, do you have any more
yeah.
questions?
Yeah, so 4 hours seems like it was too long, is what I'm kind of
Yeah.
picking up on. But did it live up to the hype? Did it give you what you wanted or what was lacking from Whedon's version of this?
Did it live up to the
I think
hype? You go first, Kev.
I think it did. I think because I was expecting this to be very terrible. Because I was like, there's no, because was so disappointed in the first one. I was like, there's no way that they can make this better unless it's an entirely different film. Well, add 2 more hours on, and they managed to do it. So yeah, I think it was worth the hype. I think it, and I use that term somewhat loosely by saying that this had been hyped up to be like the greatest superhero film ever. It wasn't that, but it was certainly, I think head and shoulders above the original version, the Whedon cut.
Yeah, and as T Daddy in the end was talking about the character showing up at the end, I mean that was already revealed at least in one of the trailers, and honestly, I didn't like the whole Joker cameo and the nightmare world kind of idea. And I think it was a setup for, hey, this is what I would have done if
Yeah.
they had given me the reins, but they've already
Right.
pretty much closed that door. Now, if there's anybody that
Yeah.
knows how to open closed doors, it's Zack Snyder, hence the fucking
That's true.
Snyder cut.
Yeah, that's true.
But it really more or less seemed like an ad for his next movie versus an actual relevant part of the Justice League. The Justice League could have really ended
Yeah.
right at that closing scene of all of them together.
Right. Yeah, it could have. It could have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's like I think it's just more of a flex, right? Like this is what you guys would have got. Because initially it was supposed to be 2 movies.
Yeah.
You know, before the original one, not the Snyder cut, but well, I guess the Snyder cut, but you know, before the original one had launched, the Whedon cut, it was supposed to be part 1 and part 2. But it wasn't for circumstances. I think the death of his daughter, Zack Snyder's daughter, had something to play in that as well.
Oh yeah, and then before Autumn at the
yeah.
end, it was like
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was also a big part of it. But I think and for me, it is bittersweet, like you said, because you see the nightmare, and that's cool if they were going to expand off that. But like you said, the door is already closed, so it kind of it felt moot.
Right. And I don't also like we've seen more of what Leto's Joker's like, you know, and now he's given more of a fair shot, and I can honestly say he's a terrible Joker, and we need to let him go.
It's not great. It's not great.
We've gotten more of an honest shot of it. I hate his Joker.
He's too emo. Yeah, he's too emo for me. Like, and then some of his quips and mannerisms were like Heath Ledgerous.
Right.
Yeah.
He sounds like a dying Waluigi when he laughs.
That's true. That's good. That's good. Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah.
And I just
who do you want to be Joker? Like, kick Leto out. Who's gonna
William Dafoe? Ask me again.
Joaquin Phoenix.
William Dafoe or Joaquin Phoenix would do good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Littlest Nelly was pointing out with the Joker as well at the end, he wouldn't care about Harley. If it's a good Joker, he would not care about Harley. And the way that they've set up this Joker as a Suicide Squad Joker, who's and God forbid you mess with the Queen. That's not Joker. That's just not Joker. Joker feels that way about Batman, not Harley.
Right.
And
he doesn't even feel that way about himself.
Right. You know, and so like Batman trying to get at him and kind of working through that way, I didn't like that either. So I could do without the whole epilogue and be fine. But was it worth the hype? No, I think it was. I think we needed to see this version. This version would have never been out there. We'd have never ever been able to see all of this. I think that Snyder needed this fair shot. And I think that there is going to be, you know, extended discussion about his ability to do this going forward. So, I do think it was worth the hype in that regard. Do I think it was the greatest movie ever? Does it completely redeem all of Justice League's qualities? No, I still think you have a shit Batman. I think Ben Affleck is a god awful Batman. I think Joker is terrible. But did you create a much Aquaman was so much cooler as the semi-alcoholic Jason Momoa kind of reluctant king kind of thing. I fucking love that. Cool. You have the comedic.
Well, they had to make Aquaman cool,
right? And the comedic relief with Flash, you know, also being the person that saves the day.
I like Ezra Miller as Flash, but and maybe it's just because I'm impartial to Grant Gustin. It's hard for me to see a different Flash. You know, I mean, he did a good job, but it'd be like if they casted someone other than Stephen Amell as Green Arrow. Like, I just would be very, very. That'd be worse. I
could adjust to a new Oliver Queen, to be honest. And I think that if I'm going to adjust to a new Barry Allen, if I'm going to complain about Grant Gustin's Barry Allen, it's the fact that he's not. comedic enough, and that he's not the lighthearted kind of character that he normally is in the Justice League. And that's why I like Urza Millers so much. And I like the fact that I like the fact that, another spoiler alert, the fact that they fail and Flash has to undo the fail by going back through time. I love that element, because then it just makes it so that really none of this happens if not all of them are working together, and the come together aspect of it really, really shines when you have that,
Yeah.
So that's my
scale of 1 to 10.
Scale of 1 to 10. I give the Justice League. I give it an 8 too. I think there are still some things that are honestly that are not perfect about the movie, but I would give the original Justice League a 5 or a 6 maybe. So that's a huge step up from all of that as well. So I would give it, out of 10, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think that's the Geek Life rating, right?
Yeah.
That's the Geek Life consensus. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
8 G's out of 10.
8 G's out of 10. All right. Well, that's all the current news out of the way. But let's throw everything to the back of the DeLorean and gun it to 88, because we're going. We don't need roads. That's right. We're headed to the future. And this week, we're talking about all the things that are coming up in the Marvel TV universe in a segment we call Future Forecasting. Sax, run that intro for us. So let me know. All right. And so welcome to Future Forecasting. Today we have your forecast for you, and we're going to be forecasting what is next for the Marvel TV universe. As you can see on this side, we have the WandaVision finale that we need to discuss in detail right here. But we're also getting mixed signs of Falcon and Winter Soldier coming in from the West here, and that might be overtaking the discussion completely. Now, keep in mind, you also have Loki. What if Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk on the horizon as well for Marvel's the Marvel TV universe. So there's a lot of potential storms that could be brewing on the Marvel TV side. But enough weather puns. First off, before we get into some more future forecasting, let's talk a little bit about what we've been talking about all the time at the water cooler, the WandaVision finale. So for me, and I don't know about y'all, the season finale seemed kind of somehow lackluster to the rest of the season. Is that just me?
Yeah.
That's just me?
Oh, no, I could relate.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I think so. Here's my thoughts. I think that the Agatha Hargrave's piece was kind of rushed. Like that whole episode where they did her backstory, that didn't seem necessary. Like I feel like they just did that to confirm that she's a witch, and then also Wanda is a legendary witch.
Right.
Well, they both are technically. But I don't like that. Like you said, that ending, it just felt like the way where they were building up everything was kind of like a slow roll, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out of it, and it kind of felt, I don't know, rushed to me. It felt a little sloppy.
Yeah, I think that I can relate on some aspects of that for sure. I think that the one big thing for me was the Paul Bettany big trolling moment. I don't know if y'all had been following this, but Paul Bettany said that there was going to be a big cameo in the finale, and he got to work with someone that he's always wanted to work with before, and he was super excited about it. And you're just gonna have to find out who it is. And he goes, I trolled you. It was me. I was the cameo. I'm the person.
I see that.
I know, I did. That's so.
And so it really did put a sour taste in my mouth, because I was sitting there like, where's this big cameo? Where is it coming from? You know,
it was himself.
It was himself. It was himself. Brotman, did you get a chance to check out the season finale?
Yeah, I did.
What were your thoughts? Was it somehow lackluster the rest of the season, or did you enjoy it?
I mean, I feel like I enjoy the show as a whole, but it seems like the episodes towards the beginning are just so well put together and like they're in their own concise like little packages too, like as you're traveling through
Right.
this world. So they kind of just like lost that thread, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still hooked. I'm still interested to see what happens
Still
next.
interested. Well, I'm
Still
just saying if
interested.
it's lackluster compared to the rest of the
Yeah.
season,
Yeah,
not
because the rest of the
necessarily
season
that.
is so great. That's the
Mhm.
thing. Like
Yeah.
it just
Right.
it's like,
That's
oh,
fair.
it's over.
That's fair. For you guys, where do you see the series going next?
Oh, that's the thing. I don't know because the way it ended, it felt like that was the end until you get to the end and
Right.
that end scene with Wanda reading the Darkhold. So I'm not I'm not entirely sure. Like what else? Like what is her mission? Like what are they going to do? Like is she gonna like because okay, so there was I guess a tease at something, right? Because uh um Agatha Harkness did say that she needed her, right? Like she
Right.
needed, like Wanda needed her for something that was coming. And we had talked about what that something was, I forget, a few episodes ago. And maybe that's what she's hinting at. Maybe it's something in line with that, and maybe there'll be some type of tie in there. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You
I'm
have
hoping they
no
go somewhere because
predictions.
because all my predictions were gone because like I said, I think we hyped ourselves up to it with like all
Right.
of our theories and stuff on how it was going to end and what was going to happen, and then
Yeah.
none of that happened.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
What do
What were
you
you about to say, Brian?
what do you, Bron? Yeah. What do you think this means for Scarlet Witch? What about Vision?
Um, I'm thinking like it's going to revolve just more around her and this
Mhm.
kind of bleeding into the rest of the world and
Mm,
becoming like more fractured, or just her hold on everything kind of expanding in a way that's out of control. It's kind of where I see it going, and it
yeah.
affecting just the whole world's timeline, not just this bubble. It's kind of where I see it going.
Yeah. No, I think that's a valid argument. I think or valid theory. I think that we're going to go into the multiverse of badness, and then things are going to shift. And then if there's another season of WandaVision, there's going to be a similar predicament that's just as obvious as what I think is going to happen. That's what I think season 2 is going to be.
Yeah.
And to one of the last questions is, do we need a season 2? And my answer to that would be, we don't unless we do. And what I mean by that is if there is another storyline plot like Vision dying, like something that doesn't feel that it's been completely fleshed out and talked about, and you want to explore that more, then yes, we need a season 2. But if you're going to try to redo this storyline or go back to, what happened, I think that there could be a season 2 on the new Vision regaining his humanity. But how does that, I don't know, how does that play into the larger thing? Who's your villain? What's your
Right.
crisis?
Right.
I'm
Maybe.
not sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
What
don't
about
know.
you? Do you guys think we need a season 2?
Yeah, like then that was the thing. Like I thought from the way it ended, how everything progressed and how it ended, I thought like that was it. I thought it was just like a limited series and there's like nothing else, right?
Right.
I thought that's how they were going to be doing some of these Marvel shows initially, where it's like, okay, the cinematic universe for the most part is over with exception for a couple films, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, et cetera, et cetera. And then the shows are going to kind of be spin-offs or extensions of that, but they weren't going to go too deep, right? I thought they were
Right.
just going to be like, okay, here's the sort of epilogue to Endgame and everything that's happened or happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. That was my initial thought after watching WandaVision. Again, up until that post-credit scene. So I'm not
Right.
entirely sure.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Brahman, what do you think? Do we need a season 2 for WandaVision?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
I think
You
so.
think so?
Especially because we weren't that satisfied with the finale. So give us more.
Yes.
We need more.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm down for it. I'm here for it.
Right.
I'm just curious as to what they'll do.
What it is going to be. Now, that isn't the only Marvel TV we've gotten now, though. We can talk about Marvel TV as a plural entity because there is more than just one Marvel TV on right now with Disney Plus. And Falcon and Winter Soldier dropped its first episode. I don't know if you guys got a chance to catch it, but I thought it was absolutely amazing. You had basically Nightmare Bucky. You had some incredible chase scenes through canyons. You can definitely tell that this series is going to be the action-packed series of the bunch. What were some of your thoughts,
liked
Kev?
it. Just the whole vibe of everything. I'm down for it. You know, I kind of watched it while I was working, so I kind of had to watch it again. But I enjoyed it. I'm pretty excited for where the direction is going to go. There wasn't too much that happened, right? I can't really say anything because there's nothing to spoil because again, nothing really too noteworthy happened in it, in my opinion, other than like a couple minor Easter eggs here and there. But as far as like the way that they're setting it up, I think it has the potential to be a pretty good show.
I agree. I think.
Oh, sorry.
Just go ahead, Bron.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't get a chance to see it. And I'm just curious, what was the style like for this? And is it similar to that of WandaVision, in which they're like trying to kind of break some of the Marvel boundaries, or does it feel like Marvel?
It feels like Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it feels like a cat movie. It feels, honestly, like you'd expect it to feel. You know, I know that sounds cheesy, but like if you could picture it in your head, you're probably right. And you know, T Daddy 34 in chat was saying, I like the more adult feel to Marvel, and I have to agree. This was talking about a lot more adult concepts. They talked about Captain America as a symbol, and that the fact that they need that symbol back and why they need that symbol back. And honestly, that setting up for kind of the future plot.
Not even that. No, she couldn't couldn't get a Sam couldn't get a loan because he had been presumed dead for 5 years. Like, that's real adult right there. Imagine the that actually hit me like in my heartstrings, where this man basically helped save the universe, and then it's like, oh yeah, sorry, we can't save your family's boat.
Yeah, and that was real. And remember the lone guy was sitting there and taking pictures with him, like, oh yeah,
Sam, but can I get a picture with a selfie with your arms out? Like, are you shitting me? Like, you just basically said I'm gonna lose my house with his boat, right? And then now you want a selfie? Like, I already saved you. Like, the audacity, right? Like, it's and we've all been there. I think it was really relatable.
For real. Gonzo,
in some capacity.
Jake, our host in chat, said WandaVision was new, but Falcon Winter Soldier was typical Marvel. It's just now a TV series. And so that's really fantastic, you know? So I think that's been really cool to see. Now, we do want to talk about, you know, some of these future forecasts that could be coming in here. We got Loki coming in over here at the June 11th mark in 2021. So if you'll recall that in Avengers Endgame, when the Avengers travel back in time to the Battle of New York, that Loki was laying siege to New York at the time and getting his hands on the Tesseract and then disappears. So this series will follow Loki. Follow the exploits of that character, basically a version that has gone through a redemptive arc of Thor, the Dark World, Thor, the Ragnarok, and Thor and Avengers Infinity War, and a version who is definitely not killed by Thanos. The series will reportedly find the God of Mischief traveling through various time periods, getting into many shenanigans, which will help explain why the Rick and Morty writer Michael Waldron was tapped as the showrunner. Kate Herring directs. Production begins in early 2020, but has been interrupted by COVID. What are you guys excited to see with Loki? What are you guys excited to see? Like, my point in bringing up Loki and What If is another series that is out there, is that right now we're getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we have agreed that that feels like the typical Marvel format, right?
Right.
Both Loki and What If seem like they're going to have their own kind of twist, just as WandaVision has had its own kind of twist.
Yeah, this sounds amazing. This sounds like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Like Marvel's version of Doctor Who.
It does with Loki. I mean, sexy fucking what's his face? Tom Hiddleston. You know, running through time. I mean, that's you're going to get a lot of people interested.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like a cleaned up Legends of Tomorrow.
You think so?
Mixed with Rick and Morty, yeah. Where I
That
think
will
it's
be
gonna be
very
somewhat
interesting.
irreverent, right?
Yeah.
As it's the kind of personality of Loki, and
Mhm.
then these sort of historical fictitious elements that they'll probably dive into. I always love that when they like those let's go back in time and screw things up, and we were the cause
And then
that led.
unscrew them up. Yeah.
And like
Yeah,
maybe go
yeah.
back to old Nordic times and really get
Hmm.
into it. Like that'd be cool. It's
Yeah,
For
yeah.
real.
That would, yeah.
God.
And who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe they'll be like, maybe they'll do like Easter egg or cameos. For instance, they'll go back into like different dimensions of like how different Marvel characters look during different time periods. Like maybe Loki will go back in like the 70s or 80s or whatever, and then you'll see how like Iron Man or whoever he decides to mess with or something will look then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of
I
curious.
mean, yeah, who knows? And maybe maybe we'll see a steampunk Iron
And
Man.
it
That's
might
what I want
remember
to see.
it remind me. You remember that episode on what was it? Fairly Odd Parents, where like
Mhm.
Timmy made a wish, and then all those Crimson Chins came out.
Yeah.
There's like one from each decade. Maybe it'll be something like that. I think that'll be great. You know, like the canceled '90 version of.
I think if we're looking at just the future forecast for a whole, I think all these are going to have their own unique flavor and their own unique taste. And I think that Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier is honestly its taste is predictable Marvel.
Yeah,
And I think that that's what we're going to see here. I mean, if you look at the upcoming shows, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and I Am Groot. I could see Armor
yeah,
Wars, I could see Moon Knight, and maybe Hawkeye having similar
yeah,
Marvel feels.
Mhm.
yeah,
If I'm looking at the logo for Hawkeye, I might think that that might have more of a Jessica Jones kind of feel.
mm,
But that's really it. And I could see Moon Knight having that same kind of thing too. But almost everything else here, I can see having its own flavor, if you will. I mean, I Am
yeah.
Groot is another one. That's not gonna feel like Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, you know.
Wait, tell me about
No,
that. I want to know
I
about
don't have
that.
I don't have any information on I Am
Oh
Groot
my
right
gosh,
now, but
I
I
don't
think
know.
I would have to imagine it's a
I
series
want
that
to
follows
know.
Groot.
Yes, what age is Groot? What is Groot up to?
Who knows? And it could be any of the cuttings from Groot, right? You know,
Yeah.
it could be any of the grown up versions of it. So we might have a variety of different Groots, you know. Oh
Honestly, that's
wow,
something.
Owen Wilson and Loki. Oh wow. Caver Doodle in the chat. Um, but yeah, and What If is another one we've talked about a lot, being an animated series. And we have everything from Zombie Cap to Star-Lord T'Challa. I think that one's going to be an
Yeah,
amazing, super duper fun one to see. Peggy Carter as a super soldier Steve Rogers instead of Steve Rogers.
yeah,
Woman Cap. Um,
yeah,
so I think that we're going to continue to be surprised by these Marvel series. I think that Falcon and Winter Soldier has a lot of high promise, but I think what we can say here is that Disney Plus is they're taking care of the franchise the way you would expect them to. They haven't gone to TV and wrecked these series, and that was a
no,
concern.
right,
Especially if they were starting off with WandaVision being their first ones, for them to hook us in as much as they
yeah,
have, I
yeah,
think that that's really impressive. And so if I had to say anything for the future forecast for Marvel TV, the future forecast looks good,
yeah. And also, bigger picture, we've talked about one movie here this entire time.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, this might be a topic for another day, but I think this is just like a lot of it has to do with the current conditions of the world, but I think this is just the way things are gonna go. And I kept joking saying that the Zack Snyder cut should have been a mini series, but I really feel
I think it should
strongly
have.
about
I thought it was
like
going to
it
be a
would have been
miniseries.
great.
Yeah.
Right, right. So I'm just thinking like this is maybe the best sort of for this type of content. This may be the best format for it. Are these straight to streaming? Obviously these aren't bingeable because they can't come out weekly. They're episodic, but something along the lines of this format now is just I think where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're gonna have these complex characters and like a multitude of them and all this backstory and everything and try to jam it into a movie, they're realizing they can't do that. So give it the breathing room of a show, and then you're able to have all that inside of it. And I think
I think it's been working. You know, I think that you can introduce a lot of new characters that way. And, well, I mean, I guess WandaVision did. WandaVision recast Pietro, and they introduced Wanda's children, and they introduced Agatha. And so there is some
didn't recast Pietro.
So
Spoiler.
yeah, that's
but they
I'm
introduced a new
confused.
Pietro.
So I have a question about that too,
Mhm.
because I didn't know if I saw him in the other movies. So Pietro, that's Quicksilver, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So they kept on saying they recast him, but I thought that he played Quicksilver.
He played Quicksilver.
X-Men
He played
movies.
Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, which was originally owned by Sony Pictures. So there was two Quicksilvers on screen at the same time. And so he never was allowed to exist in the MCU because he was technically a Sony character and not a Marvel character. That's why it was such a big deal when he crossed over to that, because when they technically killed off Pietro in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they made a deal with Sony saying, okay, you guys can have the twins, the X-Men twins for the Avengers, right? But you can only keep one of them. And so they said, okay, fine, we'll keep Scarlet Witch. And so they killed off Pietro. Later, now flash forward to now, Disney's bought that back from Sony. So they have all the rights to those characters now. So they can do whatever they want to with those characters. So they took the Sony version, which everyone liked better, Evan Peters Quicksilver, and then they made him the new Quicksilver in WandaVision because they could. At that point. And so
I was confused because he's the only one I'd ever seen, and they kept on like referencing it. I'm like, are they messing with me? Because this is the one I remember.
Age of Ultron again. Age of Ultron, he's in there.
I've never seen it.
The age of the MCU Quicksilver was Aaron Johnson. The guy who played Kick-Ass was.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah.
I like Kick-Ass.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. Well, what about you guys in chat? Let us know how everything's going. We've had a lot of fun comments in there. I think it was corrected by Savage Patch Kid in there that Peggy Carter is going to be Captain Britain. And so that should be interesting to see. I mean, Captain Britain's a cool character. It's just the same thing as Captain America, but it's a little bit different. A
little more British.
A little more British, just a little more British, and a little, a little better politics than the rest of us. Evan Peters was in Kick-Ass too. Yes. Caberdoodle saying, penis. Not quite sure why, but boner. And okay, more penis jokes. I don't know what's going on there, but everybody in chat is talking about dicks. That'll about wrap it up for the first half of the show, though. We're going to take a 5-minute break, but don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more show to talk about. We've got more. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the risky business, taking risks in the entertainment industry, why it's good, why it's bad, why you should, why you shouldn't, who does and who doesn't. And then we will wrap it up with our top 10, the top 10 marvelous Marvel women. We're counting down the top 10 women in Marvel, and yeah, it's pretty much just that. Anyways, stick around. Plenty more show to come. We've got a lot of fun that you can do on our new Be Right Back screen with your stream avatars. So stick around and enjoy, and we'll see you guys in 5.
Cool.
More crap to talk about. We got so much stuff to talk about. Right now, we're moving into our deep dive conversation. Which is the riskiest of business. That's right. We're talking about risky business decisions. Sorry, it's my back from break cough. You guys put the pieces together. All the recent talk about the Snyder Cut and how it has made us really think. The entertainment industry has gotten pretty cutthroat, right? There are tons of risks for everyone and for anyone who gets involved, from being on the receiving end of crunch to making stressful decisions at the top of the chain. The risks are endless, and failure could strike at any moment. For many companies, this creates a constant struggle. Do we play it safe, or do we innovate to ensure that we stay relevant? Tonight, we're going to talk about when you hold them and when you fold them when dealing with the risky business that is the entertainment industry. And Brahma, we're going to start with you, someone who works directly in the entertainment industry, with a very simple question of, Is the concept of risk and reward any different in the entertainment industry than other industries?
I think it is a little different just because the risks that you're taking are very obvious, or people are going to directly see those things. People are going to judge those things. Yeah, yeah,
Comicbook.com is going to write an article about it, you know?
yeah. So yeah, you're on the big screen, you're on the radar for a lot of people, and you get judged if you take risks. You get judged if you don't take enough risks. So it's like you're always kind of tiptoeing the line of where to be in public opinion, I feel like. So yeah, that kind of just attention is what
Yeah.
makes it different than other industries,
The
I feel like.
spotlight really makes it different than
Spotlight,
other industries.
yeah.
I agree with that. Kev, you have anything, any why the risk and reward might be different in the entertainment industry? In particular, like, Brum was mostly talking about TV and movies. Let's focus on video games. Is it any different in the video game industry?
Yes, it is, because I think risk in the video games industry more so can sort of change the landscape of gaming, i.e., innovation,
Hmm.
and not just graphics, but how we play games, right? How it's delivered.
Right.
Like, I'll talk about more later, but Nintendo from using a lot of gyroscopic motion controls in a lot of their games and IPs, and Microsoft taking big risk like Connect, and then it not really paying out so well, but Connect benefiting them in other ways, which I'll also talk about later.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Are there any, Kev, let's start with you on this one. Kev, are there any particular TV, movie, or video games franchises that you see taking a lot of risks and being rewarded for it, being on the positive end of the risk controversy?
So I may be impartial here, but the first game franchise that I know that takes a big risk would probably be Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Given the time that that game came out, right? Like their whole thing was they wanted the Shepard story to be the player's story, and in
Right.
a lot of ways it was, even down to the part with the relationships that you had with your crewmates and characters in the game.
Yeah, and
Feeling like
before you
the
go too far, I do want to build on this point just a little bit because um FemShep,
yeah,
why FemShep is so important
yeah,
to so many players is actually because of the similarities she has with regular Shep, right? Or
yes,
not regular Shep, they're both regular Shep.
yeah,
Forgive me for that. Male Shep.
yeah,
And in the fact that they are pretty much exactly the same, except for a few different lines of dialogue that may be changed, they're
mhm,
treated almost identically. I think is was a risky decision at the beginning point. There's so many risky decisions that you can talk about in Mass Effect, honestly.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but to your point, that ended up changing the landscape of gaming forever and representation
yeah,
in gaming forever. So
yeah.
please continue on your point, though. I didn't mean
And
to interrupt you.
I think Nintendo's always, and I know some people who probably have mixed feelings about this. They'll say they kind of just rinse, wash, repeat with
Right.
their IPs, and that is true. But they do it in a way that they make the characters not necessarily more relevant, but they evolve them without ruining the integrity or the foundation of what made those characters and IP special, right? Like Breath of the Wild, going from what the Legend of Zelda games was to this massive, expansive landscape, right? That you just traverse over.
Right.
And not only just within their games, but Nintendo consoles themselves, right? From the Wii to the
Yeah,
Wii, like Nintendo swings and misses sometimes, but
they do.
I think it benefits them more than it does
R.I.P.
fails them,
Wii
right?
U.
Like yeah, but the Wii U set up the Switch, like it was
It did.
kind of like they had like an idea where it's like, okay, the controller wasn't great, but what if we made the controller the console and then just had,
Hmm.
you know, the motion controller be the controller or just a
Right.
regular controller?
It's like, what if
And
we took the
it seems
best
like
aspects of the Wii and the best aspects of the Wii U and meshed them
yes,
together and
yes,
pretended like the
that's
Wii U
what they
didn't
did.
happen?
Yes, exactly. And not only that, and Nintendo's another one, but Xbox and Microsoft, right? From
Right.
Microsoft, with all the things that they've been doing from smart delivery to Game Pass. Game Pass is huge.
Yeah.
Like if like especially now with all the companies that they bought up, them buying ZeniMax and owning the rights to all the Bethesda IPs and stuff, and then also them partnering with EA, and essentially you get EA Play if you own if you're a Game Pass Ultimate member.
Right.
So it's just, and at the time that didn't seem plausible. Like you're gonna give these people all these games for $15 a month, and yeah, it works. I have it, I love it. It's brilliant. I think that's the way that game is going to go. And I think you're starting to see other sort of companies like Google with Stadia. They're trying to push that. They just don't have. I don't think they have the knowledge and the sort of resources or experience to execute these things. I think Microsoft will see that and be like, oh, that's how they're doing it. Well, we can do it this way much better, right? Because Microsoft in itself, cloud computing is our space anyway. So we're just going to take what you're trying to do and make it 1,000 times better. Um, but I think more granularly, I think like yeah, I think games in general, I think they either do one or two things. For instance, right, like the whole open world concept at its inception was a big risk, right? Because you were like, okay, most games you have it's point A to point B, it's all linear stuff. So you're gonna give
Hmm.
players the option to choose how they do that. That's a risk in itself, and it's a risk in where if it pays out, if it pays off, if the developers in the if they make a game where it's not that sandbox isn't just an empty sandbox with nothing in it but sand, right? Like that's
Right.
how
Right. You got to
i.e.
have something.
Right, like
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves was like that. There's a few other games that are like that. They come out, they're just like open world, and it's not really a risk. It's more of a cop out at this point because everyone's doing it. So it's not something that's new and innovative.
Yeah.
So now it's like almost you're gonna go and shift in another direction where you're gonna have like kind of these hybrid linear open world stories, like you're saying with Fallen Order and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are the things that come to mind anyway.
As Gonzo puts it, the Wii U walked so the Switch could run, um, which is great. Are there any Brahman? Are there any particular movie, TV, video games franchises that you look at as took some risks and then bombed?
Bombed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was like right on the reward side of it. I was
No,
all
no,
ready
no,
to
no.
go.
What to
Oh
go
no.
on the other end? On the other end,
Yeah.
tanked. What are some that took the risk and lost it all?
Lost it all. Okay, well, Gonzo just brought up a good point. The Wii.
Yeah,
That
the
was
Wii
a
U. The Wii U was a big risk. No, that's actually a great one. The Wii
Yeah.
U was a big risk, and it
Mhm.
was a big flop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It was. It
I,
was.
there's there.
I think that
Um.
one of them that I could think of that would be a big one. You can think of some of the what you guys were talking about on the last episode of season one. Some of these bad season finales. Game of Thrones taking huge risks in its last season that did not pay off, and that have
Yeah.
pretty much erased it from pop culture. I think a lot of bad season finales, you can say they took risks, particularly at the end, that that bombed the franchise. Kev, do you have any that you can think of?
So Game of Thrones, I don't know if they risked it or if they just dropped the ball. Like you can't
Yeah.
you can't risk anything if you like they
Well, I
like
would
like
I would
George R.
say
R. Martin gave them
risking,
the ball.
yeah, but risking the choices that they made there, like having Jon Snow do all those things, making Bran the king for whatever fucking
Yeah.
reason. Like a lot of
Yeah,
the
you're right.
points that
That
people
is a risk.
complain
Yeah. Yeah.
about were risky things to think of, were
Yeah.
risky things to
Yeah.
do and put in the plot. And George R. R. Martin didn't write the book so that he could eventually
Yeah.
go, that didn't work. I'm not going to
Yeah.
write that so that I can say that that was not my idea.
Yeah.
And that's, I won't blame him for saying that.
Yeah. I guess when I think of risk, I think of like Marvel's like signing 5 AAA actors to do a movie, right? Like that doesn't
Yeah.
happen. That didn't happen before then, really. Like you had Chris
Mhm.
Evans, Tony Stark, Scarlett Johansson, it's Samuel J. List goes on and all in one movie,
Yeah.
right? I think the whole MSCU experiment itself was a big risk, and I think there's other and I think Star Wars taking a risk with like Mandalorian, I think that's huge. Like anytime you do a spin-off or anytime you touch Star Wars in general, it's a risk
Right.
because you're gonna be met with vitriol anyway.
Right. You really
And then
are.
you saw them drop the ball with the new trilogy, in my opinion. Some may disagree, but I think
Yeah, and
that
it's
was something that
it
pan
was
out.
it was definitely a risk to take after all the feedback that they'd gotten from the sequel trilogy is what it's supposed to be called. You have the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. That's the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And with all that they bombed there, you know, there's a ton. Oh, Gonzo had a great example. Anthem.
Yeah.
That was a whole bunch of risk. That was jumping in feet first.
And not only did they screwed themselves two ways. All of their talent off of the Mass Effect team and putting them on that project and ultimately screwing two games at once. Right? Like it so it's a good example.
No, I think that's a fantastic example.
Yeah.
You can go back and turn the clock and go back to the ET game, the famous ET game that's filled some landfill somewhere. Was a huge risk that someone thought that there could be a cartridge game for ET, you know, and then that would be successful and that would work. So you know. It is what it is in some circumstances, right? I think that's the best that you can go with.
I think there's also risks in like the way people like present media too. That like there's if a couple movies have done this where they've shot a film like from like your perspective, from like first person perspective, and I don't think I've really seen that done well yet. I liked Blair Witch, like from that sort of standpoint. So I feel like that's like a way which was successful, like that sort of found footage, your perspective, you're watching it from your eyes. And then you see something like Cloverfield, which in my opinion was just like all over the place and I didn't really relate to it as much. So yeah, I think that that's a huge risk and just changing the structure and the point of view in which you experience content.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get just a little more granular on some of these risks. Okay. What do you think of some of the biggest risks taken in the movie industry recently? Kev, let's start with you.
The Snyder cut.
Yeah.
Can I go there?
Yeah. I mean that is a risk.
You know what? No. Okay. Well, this will be really easy then. HBO Max and all those movies coming to HBO Max. Right? Like that's a huge risk.
And there's a lot of people that weren't very happy about it.
Oh, well, yeah, mostly Hollywood execs, but
right.
for obvious reasons. But no, that's a huge risk. You're essentially taking something that has always been done a certain way and then going the opposite direction of it. Not only going the opposite direction, but going into what has been a threat to that specific industry in general, right? Like, so it's definitely because that was the thing, right? Like think about it before this whole streaming thing came on. Like movies that went straight to DVDs were never great movies for the most part, right? You had a couple lost gems, but you didn't really hear much about them. So now like there's this that was a trope for a while where if it doesn't go to the big screen at first, then it's not worth your time and it's not noteworthy. But that's not the case anymore. And I think you're gonna see that with what HBO Max is doing. And I think if this turns out to be successful, because they even had a couple more coming with Godzilla versus Kong and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that people are excited about.
If this turns out to be a success, then you're going to start, you know, just like anything else, right? That if it works, other people are going to copy you.
Exactly. Yeah. Braun, same question. What do you think are some of the biggest risks taken in the movie industry recently? Or do you think we got it out covered in that? Brahman?
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Oh, whoops. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. Yes. What are some of the biggest risks that you've seen taken to the movie industry? No worries.
Biggest risk, making movies during a pandemic.
That's a risk. Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
It's a risky business. But what I find interesting is the things that are the risks people are taking. If they'll take it, it'll be successful, and then that'll become like not a risk anymore, you know?
Oh, that's how it goes. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's everything's monkey see, monkey do in a way, right? Like if something works, you're gonna be like, oh, we have to do it that way now. Like that's the new standard.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes to divert risk, corporations and creators lean on nostalgia. We know this. We've seen this in reboots, remakes, spin-offs even. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it comes without its risks, right? I mean, the Mario Brothers movie doesn't have a franchise for a reason, right? And they were banking on a franchise.
Hey,
If
we
you
can't
watch
just
the end of
bank
that
on it.
movie, they set up for a sequel, and that sequel does not happen. Doom, awful movie. Detective Pikachu, absolute banger.
That's true. I
Back to the
really did
Future
like
knew
the movie.
exactly when to stop. Terminator didn't. Green Lantern was so bad it killed an entire superhero. I mean, do we need another Resident Evil movie? Really? Like, there's a whole bunch of these that we can talk about. But what are some remakes or sequels that, or even originals based on another IP that are worth risking killing the franchise for? Kev,
The Witcher.
The Witcher.
That was so
Okay,
fucking fantastic.
explain.
It was just amazing. Like
Yeah.
if you had never seen The Witcher, if you didn't know what
Mhm.
The Witcher was, and you watched the show, it would be an incredible show for you. And I
Yeah.
know people like my girlfriend for one, like, and also too. I mean, I knew who The Witcher was, but I never had really played the games because
Right.
they're overwhelming. But yeah, like that by itself, and I think that's how you know if you have like if you've taken a good risk and it's been a hit is if it stands alone without the reputation of its nostalgia or wherever you're pulling it from, right? Like if
Right.
The Witcher was just The Witcher, right? Take the title out the name, take whatever. If you just had that thing, that story, the content, everything, and it's great, and you can and you didn't even recognize where it's from. I think that's how you know a risk paid off, right? I think too many times you're going to be driven and inspired by nostalgia to like something, and I think sometimes if you can have something that's independent of that, then that's how you know it really worked.
Yeah. No, for real. I think you're right on. Um, y- Brahman, what were some that you know weren't worth risk killing the franchise, and finally ended up hurting the brand forever, as far as remakes and sequels?
Right.
Oh, Brahman, are you still there?
I don't know why.
Oh, oh,
I'm
oh.
still here.
Okay, there we go.
Things that work. We're good.
Yep, we're good now. So some things that weren't worth risk killing the franchise and hurt the brand forever.
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go do tell, do tell. Why
Please
do you say Assassin's
elaborate.
Creed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like that movie was just so
yeah. Great.
unnecessary, and it was kind of just
Hmm.
giving people who didn't play the games kind of an experience like the game, and then it was giving everyone who did play the games just an itch to turn it off and like fire up their console because it's like
That's an interesting pick.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I forgot about that movie. It was bad. It
That is a
was.
that is a fantastically interesting pick, but you're absolutely right. That is one that wasn't uh really it wasn't worth killing the franchise, and it really could have. I
Yeah.
think that I feel like it was enough to keep the franchise afloat, and Assassin's Creed, just drop Valhalla, and they're just they're still good at what they're good at, so it's
Mhm.
kept it
Yeah.
afloat. But did it have the potential to? Absolutely, and it was pretty terrible. That's one I wouldn't think of. A good pick there, Bronwyn. Um, what do you
And
think
here's the other
is the?
thing too.
Go ahead.
I think like and to stay on that, I think like um just the fact that they went in this direction with Valhalla, granted they were pressured to because of some of the, misogynistic things that were going on
Yeah.
with their previous titles. But I mean that was a risk and it seemingly
Mhm.
paid off, but I think everyone kind of knew it would have paid off. They just would have done this originally.
True. True. True.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
guys believe is the best example of cashing in on nostalgia gone wrong? Period. I think when I think of it, I think of the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. I think that the way that they try to bring back nostalgia there just didn't work in every single element. Can you guys think of any examples?
I think of the prequel trilogy of Star Wars too. I don't think
Yeah.
any of those really, yeah, other than like for me, I think there's one movie from either of those that were good, and then the others were just awful.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but that's just my opinion. But outside of that, I think, oh God, like how many, like you said, how many Resident Evil movies do we need?
Hmm.
Uh, it's kind of a running joke for me, but Fast and Furious is getting there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably already there for most people, but it is what it is. I accept it for what it is. You
Yeah.
know, it's an adrenaline of cocaine straight to the face with cars and people and The Rock. You know, and yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's another one that's just as long as it keeps making money, they're gonna keep putting them out.
Right, right. Brahman, what about you? Do you think there's any good examples of nostalgia gone wrong?
Yeah, and this is maybe like a different way that people use nostalgia, but something like Wonder Woman 84, where it's just like
Mhm.
trying to like really lean in on an era and like kind of
That is another way. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
sure.
right. There's like
That
this
was
cash
perfect.
cow idea of like of
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy and that whole
Yeah.
vibe where people are just trying to cash in on the nostalgia vibe of a certain generation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there been a real like try, but like I guess people trying to cash in on the 80s from
they were
Yeah.
not
Stranger Things to no, they weren't.
no
They
one
really weren't.
wants to go back to the 80s.
They
Reagan
really
does.
weren't.
Other than
Yeah, I
that,
know.
people that like
You know what?
Reagan.
Like but it's weird because I think like it works for some movies when they make it make sense. Like Stranger Things made sense because they didn't. I feel like they didn't really force it.
Yeah.
But like Wonder Woman 84, even the acting was 80s. Like it looked like there's a reason why we stopped acting like that. It's bad. Like like they were like
Right.
everything like they had the 80s tropes. Like I get the nostalgia trip. That's fine if you're gonna do
Mhm.
everything from the Americana pop culturist icons, right? From like whatever soda was cool or shoes or hairstyles or whatever. That's fine, but you know, leave the acting out of it. Like
Right.
that's actually what irritated me the most. I'm like, I don't watch 80s movies for good reason. Like they're most of them
Yeah.
aren't that good if we're being honest.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Littlest Nelly's been popping up in the chat. I'm 100% certain Disney remakes are done with the goal of raising merch sales on classic looks. For each
Yeah.
remake they've done, I've seen 10 times as much officially licensed pulls on classics, and I've had
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
remakes looks, and they always outsell.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a very valid reason, and that is 100% like the strictest version of capitalism capitalizing
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
nostalgia in
Yeah.
one of the strongest ways. But
Yeah.
let's take a shift here. What about playing it safe? Right, we've heard a lot about what it comes to, taking risks in the business. But what about the opposite of taking risk? What about playing it safe? We've heard, when it comes to the recent Pokemon announcements, these games, we have some people that complain, Jake, that these games haven't evolved very much,
I wish he was
and
here.
believe that what would the best way that these games could that these games haven't evolved very much, pun
Yeah.
intended, first off, um,
Great one.
and that it could benefit from those kind of risks. Do you guys agree? I mean, is Jake right? Are there some games, and some of them are the ones that are pictured on our image below here.
Yeah.
Madden's in this bucket as well. As
Spoilers.
far as making the same game over and over again and not really taking very much risk, sticking to what works and not really building off of it much. Kev, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, if you're not in our Discord, you really miss some spicy takes from Jake
Yeah.
in regards to the Pokemon franchise, which some I agreed with, some I didn't. I think like you said, tried and tested, and I think if it works, sometimes you gotta keep milking the cow, so to speak, or whatever analogy you want to use. I think it's just
Mhm.
at some point you want like you're gonna get tired and you're gonna get I think you're gonna feel like it's soulless. And remember and I think what I initially accidentally started this discussion because I saw a YouTube video of this guy saying that what kind of killed that franchise was just the 3D animations because it makes the Pokemon seem lifeless, which I kind of agreed with. And
Yeah.
the animations had looked the same for like the past 5 generations or 5 games or so, right? And I think that's when it's time to innovate, right? Because this stuff is art in a way. Your art shouldn't be soulless.
Right.
And if it comes to that, then you got to figure out, okay, what are we not doing here? Like, and sometimes it's not a big overhaul; it's just adding a little spice to it, right? Like,
Right.
uh,
Making
you
Raichu
know,
stand on its tail, like
yeah, something like that, or
something
just
fun.
different textures and shading. Try different graphic outputs, something
Yeah.
else. Try something a little different to re-energize. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen is, and this is also a part you can kind of get away with it when you don't have a competitor,
Mhm.
And you see that a lot with anything from Pokemon to wrestling to
Right.
Madden, to NBA
Madden's
2K,
a
where
big
there's
one.
not a yeah, so is 2K. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Um, it
Once
gets
you
to a
got those
point
four
where
games, EA in general.
right, where it's like you could just like I'm pretty sure they just like the box art's the same behind it. Like they didn't
Mhm.
even bother. You know when you like change your tags, but you don't change them, you just put the sticker over
Right.
top of it. Like that's how a lot of these games are now.
Yeah.
And and a lot of it's to do with competition that and they're playing it safe because it works financially for them, but it doesn't really work for the game in my opinion.
Yeah.
Most more times than not, anyway.
Brahma, what about you? What are the benefits to playing it safe?
So I'm going to reference Zelda, and I know that their most recent game is obviously not part of this structure, and they completely took a risk there, and I love what they did. But if you look at just
Mhm.
like the history of that game,
Yeah.
you're basically throughout all the iterations, you're interacting with the same characters, you have the same kind of arc, you have the same kind of quest,
Yeah.
and they do that over and over again, but they like change the animation or change the time period, and it's like those little subtle changes, but you really are playing a similar game
Right.
throughout the history of it. And I think that they do a good job of like playing it safe while not playing it safe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They gave their fans what they wanted, but it was like
Mhm.
those subtle ways in which they change things
And I
or
and I think
it.
to your point with that, you get with the to particularly point back to the benefits of you get from playing it safe there,
Mhm.
you get an experience that you can expect that you'll like. Like you know, if you're gonna this next Zelda game that comes out, you're gonna
Mhm.
like it because there are at least some elements of predictability that you're going to have.
Right.
You know, and those elements have been predictably good.
Yeah.
And I think that that is the core point of why you know Pokemon is like that with when I see a Pokemon game, one of the biggest things I want to know about it is, am I going to get to play with Pokemon? Like, am I going to get
Mhm.
to play within that franchise? Temtem offers a very, very similar experience to Pokemon, but what is the difference between Temtem and Pokemon? Temtem isn't a Pokemon franchise. I
Yeah.
can't get a reboot in Temtem
Yeah.
because Nintendo has copyrighted that and has secured that experience and made it very reliable in that way. And do I think that they could innovate more? Absolutely, but I do think that that is to Bronwyn's point, one of the biggest benefits of playing it safe. You do need to innovate, like Bronwyn was saying, with
Yeah.
how Zelda changes up the graphics, and like you may have a guide, but this time this guide turns you into a wolf, and in the next one, that
Yeah.
guide, allows you to fly on a bird,
Mhm.
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well,
But
and that's the thing, right? Like I think that's the difference where it's like Pokemon's playing it safe has kind of just been reskinned games in a way. Like they'll probably sprinkle in different innovations or stuff that might be more kind
mm,
of nuanced to people who play it more regularly, who would notice like minor changes like that, where it's like Mario in 3D, Mario on an island with a water gun, Mario in
right,
space, Mario traveling circumventing the world in a balloon. Like these, like they're it's enough to like change the game where without
yeah,
changing what's important. And I think we saw that where I think in a way that like to get back to your point where I think Pokemon will do that. Hopefully,
hmm
is with the Legends reveal. Like we're all hoping
yeah,
for that. Kind of what
yeah, I think
Braun
so
was saying,
too.
where it's the same with the Legend of Zelda, right? Like the way they change it is like they'll do a graphics change. They went from 3D graphics to like a more cartoon shaded graphics back to
Right.
like Skyward Sword with using the Wiimote.
Hmm.
And then here with Breath of the Wild, and yeah, and I think and Nintendo does a good job of that with those games because I, I don't know. I think their development's like, okay, where can we put these characters next? Like what? And I think that's what works, right? They're like, let's put them in a situation where they're going to be challenged, but it's not going to challenge the integrity or the foundation of what makes these characters great.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think that that's probably the biggest benefit to playing it safe. But while playing it
Yeah,
safe can pay the bills and keep the lights on your yacht, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, in my
yes,
opinion.
you do. Popeye's
What?
biscuit.
Yeah. What do you believe is the best payout for franchises that did take the risk?
Gosh, Fortnite. I know people are gonna hate me
Fortnite.
for this, but that was the biggest risk. Like that
Yeah.
game, a lot of people, if you don't know, Fortnite was initially a 4-player PvE,
Mhm.
and it failed so bad. And that was a risk in itself. Like that game, well, I guess it was kind of Left 4 Dead-ish. There was a few games that it was kind of like, but this one was more cartoony and fun. But the game failed so bad, they just said, "Screw it, we're gonna make PUBG, but with our skin." And they did
Yeah.
that, and it worked. And that was a risk that paid off. And you started seeing more franchises kind of do that, with like going into this, making games free to play. I think that's always a risk. Apex was a risk. Um, yeah, but I think Fortnite's the biggest one that comes to mind, just because they
Yeah.
essentially changed their entire game and made it free, and now they're one of the most successful games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a big one. Bron, what about you? Any
Oh,
uh any that you believe um the best payout for a franchise that did take the risk?
yeah, and it's one that we talked about earlier today. I'd say WandaVision because
Yeah, that's a good
they
one.
did something like they got me
Hmm.
reinterested
Yeah.
in Marvel when it had become really stale for me, and it's been a hugely successful show, and it shows
Yeah.
that like their other stuff is hugely successful too. So they could have kept on playing it safe and done what they always do, but they didn't. They took a risk, and it brought in more people. It kept their fan base happy as well. So I think that that was a great risk, and I really hope to see more stuff from them that is different than their safe format.
I mean, you talked about earlier how you haven't seen Age of Ultron.
Mhm.
Now you have a reason to watch Age of Ultron, right?
I know.
Yeah.
You have a
Yeah.
reason to do it, and it's now gotten you back interested in it. So I think that you prove your point.
Yeah.
That it really did take some risks, and because of those risks, it brought new people into the franchise. So I think that that is fantastic, and that's a good point to wrap up our conversation on risky business in general,
Yeah.
because we have a completely unrelated top zen. We wanted to make sure we got a good top zen in for Women's Month and honoring all that women bring into the wonderful nerd universe that we are here to create, and we've done some top 10 countdowns before, highlighting particularly female characters in video games. And with the success of WandaVision, we wanted to talk a little bit about the top 10 marvelous Marvel women. Well, we could talk about risky business in the entertainment industry all night. We got more show to do. So our last segment of the evening will hopefully be a better nod to Women's History Month than the time Burger King tweeted "Women belong in the kitchen." Um, mm. Yeah, that was a real thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's the top 10 most marvelous Marvel women. And I will be kicking it off with number 10 on the countdown, which is Kitty Pryde. Ever since her first memorable appearance in The Uncanny X-Men number 129, Catherine Ann Kitty Pryde has proven 10 times that she is definitely the most powerful X-Men character. Co-created by the creative teams of John Byrne and Chris Claremont, Kitty has proven that she has more than amazing mutant abilities of phasing through walls. Her most powerful moments in comic book history has always been made to the tune of potential that she always carried with her. After going through a vast array of superheroine costumes and names, Pride has continued to demonstrate to many readers that she will always be unflinchingly rebellious, brutally honest, and incredibly passionate. At the crucial and tender age of 13, Kitty accidentally discovered that she had an incredible gift, which could turn into a frightening curse at the same time. In which, when she is in control, Kitty's mutant powers allow her to pass through solid matter. Rather than use this uncanny ability to break through vaults and rob banks, Pride decides to visit Westchester, New York, and attend Professor Charles Xavier's School for the Gifted Youngsters. Just as her powers continue to evolve, Kitty's character arc gradually progressed and made her a prominent member of the mutant superhero team. Well, I think Pride should be much higher on the list. I don't think that anyone can argue that number 9 is an absolute powerhouse as well. So I just, before we move on to number 9, though, I think that with one of my most amazing Kitty Pryde moments has to be when she phases the giant meteor through Earth while she's inside of it, sacrificing herself, because she phases it through, but it's going through so fast that by the time that she's unphased it back, she's already in space, and there's no way for her to phase out, and no way for anyone to catch her, and she just basically floats off endlessly into space and sacrifices herself for the greater good of humanity. To me, that's pretty fucking badass. And one of the things that I like about Kitty Pryde is her powers are not like, they're not world-shattering powers, right? She can just phase through objects, but the way that she uses her powers really shows her ingenuity and her uniqueness as a character. You know, it's more than just a tropish thing that she can do. She uses her abilities, and her intellect as a character shines. And I think that's one of amazing reasons. And I think that's why she comes in at number 10 in the countdown. What do you guys think about Kitty Pryde coming in at number 10?
I just think it's funny that you just said, oh yeah, she can just phase through objects. Lame powers. It's like, if I could phase through objects, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that is a pretty cool ability, for sure.
We're so jaded when it comes to heroes. Like,
I just finished watching the Snyder Cut. You know, I saw Soups doing his thing, and that's yeah, that'll make you super jaded when it comes to superheroes, right?
That's true.
So I think that 100% influenced my decision. But Braun, who do we have as number 9 on the countdown this week?
Number 9, Dot, is none other than Black Widow. And first, let me just take a moment to acknowledge that it looks like I'm in night vision right now, which is pretty cool. And I did not even realize that would happen. And I'm looking at myself here, and it's like, yeah, cool. Nice. Not planned. But anyways, number 9, Black Widow. Also known as Natasha Romanova, Black Widow is a former mercenary and assassin turned hero. Having been brainwashed in Russia's Red Room to be a skilled assassin, she fought her programming and instead turned to heroics, serving on the Avengers for years after. Her skills as an assassin are unmatched. And not only is she skilled as a fighter, but is great for stealth work as well, making her perfect for undercover work on the Avengers missions and beyond. She is truly a major powerhouse for the Avengers and even made the ultimate sacrifice in the films. But speaking of powerful Avengers, Kev, you've got a god at number 8, right?
Yes, Brian, I do. At number 8, it is none other than Jane Foster. Well, kind of. Jane Foster has long been one of the brightest and nicest women in Marvel Comics and movies. Shout out Natalie Portman. For a while, though, she became more than just Jane, as she also wielded Mjolnir and Thor as Thor. And it looks like she might be doing it again in the upcoming Thor Love and Thunder. In the comics, instead of studying electrical phenomena, Jane could wield it with one raised hand. As Thor, Jane didn't need anyone to save her because she could save herself. There was also that nasty side effect of her cancer and Mjolnir literally keeping her going. Few women in comics are as mentally and physically strong as Jane Foster. One that comes close, at least mentally, has to be number 7. Dot, who we got at 7 this week?
Yeah, we are rolling right through this countdown, and number 7 in the countdown, Kev, is Shuri T'Challa. All right, so Shuri is not only the most intelligent person in Wakanda, but she is one of the most intelligent people in the world. She rivals even the likes of Tony Stark, Reed Richards, with her weapons, gadgets, innovations, helping define the country that she loves. As Princess of Wakanda, she has a wide range of political and economic power. However, she likes to get her hands dirty often and will be found on the battlefield alongside her brother. She also puts on the Black Panther costume in the past, joining other members of her family in carrying on the tradition. Recently, I know that they've had rumors about Shuri even playing Ironheart in some of the upcoming series. As they think that she would be a better fit than Tony Stark's daughter, who's, you know, notably a lot younger. But of course, with Chadwick Boseman's passing, it's likely that we could see her even reprise the role of Black Panther herself. Kev, what do you think about that potential possibility, or would you like to see her as Ironheart?
Man, I don't know. I'd like to see her as Ironheart so she can kind of be herself, but of course, I'm always here for someone, you know, carrying on the mantle of the Black Panther. So
Right.
I'd be happy either way.
I think that she should be someone that helps Ironheart,
Yes.
and I think that she could be a good character to build that series with. But I think that she would be. I would like to see her personally as Black Panther. I don't know about you, Brahma. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to see her as Black Panther for sure. I feel like that would be a really amazing tribute to having her like be there since the beginning of
Yeah.
the films too, and like work so closely with him, both like on a personal level as actors, but also their characters. And I think that,
Right.
yeah,
No, I absolutely agree. But unfortunately, Shuri doesn't have the natural superpowers or mutant ability, but number 6 on the countdown does. Enough mystery though. Braun, who do we have at number 6 on the countdown?
number 6 on the countdown is Mystique.
See
She
what I did
is
there? See.
one of my one of my
That was a good one.
favorites from the X-Men universe. Oh my gosh, Mystique has been just I've adored her my whole life since who was it? Like Rebecca Romaine played her in the original movies. Oh my gosh. But anyways, Raven Darkholme is as mysterious and impenetrable as her code name. Though a frequent enemy of the X-Men, she has been known to change allegiance on occasion. Her motives are always shrouded as likely to work on the side of the Angles as they benefit her. This duality leaves a strong impression. Mystique is truly inscrutable, even for a shapeshifter. And I've just always really looked up to her as just being an unapologetic, just badass of a woman. And I think she is pretty incredible. But for someone more powerful than Mystique, as proven in a few mediocre movies, is flying in at number 5. Kev, who do we have at number 5?
Yeah, Brian. It's Storm. Wouldn't it be nice to change the weather at will? Living in DC, I sure would love to. To turn a rainy day into a
Beneficial that power was. Please continue, Kev.
to turn a rainy day into a beach-worthy one. Well, this iconic X-Men character can. At number 5 this week, we've got X-Men Storm. To say that making it sunny was the extent the storm's power would be a colossal understatement. Depending on which canon you follow, Storm can literally wipe out entire areas by calling upon tsunamis. Lightning tends to be Storm's favorite weapon, as she can call down from the sky at any given time to shock her opponents into submission. Storm is also a natural leader and tends to bring out the best in other powers. This matched with her cunning makes her exceptionally strong. While Storm is a weather witch, number 4 is the witch. Dot, who do you vision is at number 4?
Ooh, cryptic there. I see what you did there, Kev.
Yeah.
Number 4 this week is the star of everyone's favorite sitcom, Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch should definitely be on the list of one of the most powerful characters, probably of all time. Period. Yeah. After all, she basically has no limit to her powers. Although the Avengers movies hasn't shown Wanda Maximoff's mutant magic in action as to the fullest extent of what it can do, we did get to explore a lot bigger range of that in WandaVision. Her comic book counterpart gets to show them off far more. So comic fans just know what's to come for Scarlet Witch. In the comics, she's able to fully rebuild reality as we know it in order to suit her own desires. And when she does this with just a bit of fury and minimal concentration, uttering 3 little words, she changes every character in the Marvel universe as well as all of their storylines. You don't get stronger than that. In fact, it's a bit outlandish. Exploring Wanda in WandaVision, I think, has really brought a lot to her character. I think that there's been a whole new fandom that's arisen out of uh, Scarlet Witch because of this series.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree, Kev, Braun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
No, for sure. Yeah, there you go. No, I think
Yeah.
and she's super like you said, for how powerful she is, she's vastly underrated and misunderstood. Like, I don't think people understand how powerful she is. Like, I mean, you said it, but I still don't think people understand. Like,
Right. The House of M
uh,
storyline is huge, huge, huge,
yes,
huge.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, and as Savage Patch Kid and and chat was saying, iconic. Um, And
Yeah.
I think that it really does show off her potential.
Well,
And if we're getting that's heavy in the Marvel universe, there's a
there's
lot
a
more to
reason
come.
why Xavier has her as a Class 5 mutant,
Right.
right? Like she, along with a select others, can literally just destroy the world with their power.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Right.
even they even hinted at it. They said it in WandaVision, where God, I'm drawing a blank. What's her name? Said that Wanda could have destroyed Thanos by herself. She wasn't
Yeah.
exaggerating. She literally could have.
She could have. Yeah. She
Yeah.
very much could have. Thanos is much more powerful than Thanos.
Yeah.
But but it's not quite as outlandish as literally sucking the power out of one of the strongest heroes in the galaxy. And with that said, Bronwyn, who do we have at number 3 in the countdown?
Number 3 this week, Dodd, is Rogue, one of the first Marvel comic book women to get mainstream attention thanks to the 90s X-Men animated series and the 2000s live action movies. She was played by Anna Paquin in the movies. Oh my gosh, I adore her too. Anyways, Rogue is as popular as ever. She also got one of the most interesting powers in comics, making her pretty formidable. Rogue can absorb the powers of another with nothing more than a simple touch. That means she can be as strong as anyone she comes in contact with. She's even absorbed Captain Marvel's abilities a time or two, making it easy to see why she's so high on the list. Even those above her are still at risk of her literally sucking their powers from them. Speaking of Captain Marvel, though, Kev, who do we have at number 2 to piss off the fanboys?
Yeah, this might seem like a contradiction, given what you just said, Don, but number 2 is Captain Marvel. Number 2 this week is Carol Baskin. I mean, Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. Captain Carol Danvers gained her awe-inspiring abilities when caught in a blast of radioactive energy. This gave her the power to absorb energy and project it at will, as well as create beams of light and heat. She can also fly and has enhanced physical strength and durability. Captain Marvel also has a cosmic awareness, not dissimilar from the Spidey sense, that allows her to sense trouble long before it arrives. This usually gives her a one-up on her opponents. A former Air Force pilot, she gained superpowers after she was caught in a blast of radioactive energy. The original Captain Marvel stepped in to shield her, and she absorbed his genetic template. Carol became Miss Marvel and a mainstay on the Avengers roster. It was only recently that she assumed the deserved mantle of Captain Marvel. In her latest arc, Danvers suffered brain damage from noble efforts to save New York from the Kree. Only time will tell what happens next. But where Captain Marvel fell short of beating Thanos alone, number 1 on our list has done that and more. Dodd, don't keep the people waiting. Give them what they want. Who's number 1 this week?
We've got a great writing team, guys. They're fantastic. They're fantastic. I will give you guys the nut. Because this number 1 on here, is pretty nutty. I'm not gonna lie. It's very nutty. And if you haven't heard of her, it's the motherfucking Squirrel Girl. Okay. Number 1 is the one and only most powerful female in the Marvel universe. It is Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl defeated Doctor Doom with an army of squirrels in her first cameo appearance ever, setting the tone for her comics. Now she's defeated several of Marvel's most formidable villains, spawning a running joke that she is the most powerful character in the Marvel universe. In 2009, Holiday G-Max Comics defeating MODOK with a single help from a squirrel sidekick. She has also won a fight against Thanos and Therax, along with some lesser-known villains, hence the title of her ongoing comic, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Plus, there was that one time where she persuaded Galactus not to eat Earth, although that was a triumph of social skills rather than just physical combat. But hey, if you're able to, kick Thanos' ass and negotiate with Galactus, you're a pretty strong hero. And for a hero that is entirely based off of literally fucking squirrels, it's just a very colorful, fun, unique character that only Marvel could create. So, what do you guys think? Do you think Squirrel Girl is righteously earned this title as number 1?
I think so. I think we'd be nuts to consider anybody else. Be absolutely squirrely.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking of a good pun and you just Snatch
just-
them.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Stole it from her.
Stole it from me and then put it
There's something there in your tree.
in your
Yeah.
nut.
In your nut hole. Yeah, that's the one we should have gone with.
That's where they go.
That's where they go. In the nut hole. Yes, sir. Overall, it's easy to see why Squirrel Girl would be number one on the list. She's literally the Ali of the Marvel universe. Like, she kicks everybody's ass. Let me ask you this: when do we get a Squirrel Girl movie? When's that coming, Marvel? I didn't see you rolling that one out at the last meeting. There's a lot you announced. I don't see the Squirrel Girl movie. Who would you guys cast as Squirrel Girl?
God. A few are coming to mind. I just.
Is it
I'm
Anna
like-
Kendrick? In that, I think her name, the one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
I think she'd be a great Squirrel Girl.
Girls,
Yeah,
from, like,
yeah.
Twilight, Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Who would be good?
Oh man, it's killing me. Imagine like maybe like Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
May Whitman was a recommendation from Savage Patch Kids.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good cast. That's
it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is our countdown. We got to go through some honorable mentions. Peggy Carter, She-Hulk, Phoenix, Jessica Jones, Pepper Potts was somehow on our honorable mentions list. Yeah, Marvel is just chock full of amazing women in general. So this countdown was hard to narrow down, but the unbeatable Squirrel Girl's got to take it away for us all, you know.
She has to.
She's got to.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that will wrap it up for this episode of Geek Life. We really hope you've enjoyed everything today. And remember that if you want more Geek Life, you can always follow either of us on Twitch, Twitter, all the social medias. You can find me at Roose Bane on Twitter and Twitch. Kev, where can they find you?
Totally awesome.
And Braun, where can they find you?
At Space Nymph.
And you can also follow us on any of our social medias here for Geek Life. There should be a link down below with a link tree, which would take you to our Discord, our TikTok, our Instagram, our Twitter. And definitely check us out on TikTok. We're being pretty regular about putting content out on there on the daily, and just a fun but of zany content, even some news updates throughout the week. So if you want to stay up to date on everything, all the nerdy news you need to know, then you definitely need to be signed up for our TikTok. And
I might put the tabs in on there so you can disagree with it even more.
right. You never know. So that'll about do it. Thank you guys so much. Big shout out to our moderator. Huge shout out, y'all.
Huge.
To our video producer, the fattest Sax. Okay, guys. If you guys don't know this, I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit. But Sax learned how to run this whole thing in the matter of about 3 to 4 hours today. Cleared his schedule. He wanted to help make Geek Life happen, and we could not have done it without him. If you guys haven't checked out the fattest Sax's stream, definitely go drop him a like, go drop him a sub, go check out some of his YouTube content. Yes, he really came through for us. Big shout out to our Jedi Master producer Cape, who also whose computer died on him this morning, and he's helped basically reroute the entire stream throughout the day through Sax and everything. So big shout out to there. Big shout out to our moderator Littlest Nelly, and all of our new followers. I think we had a couple of new followers throughout the thing. I don't know if I got any new ones, but I know that Dark Cupid left us a follow recently. Thank you guys so much. Slust Vader left us a sub. Who was that, Kev, that you had?
I think TDaddy34_34.
TDaddy34, thank you guys so much for that. We really appreciate that. I think we had a sub from Don Pollock as well. We appreciate that. And yeah, we will be back, guys. Season 2 has started off to a little bit of a rocky start, but we had 2 computers die on us to yesterday. So for all the catastrophes, I think we ended up pretty good. I hope you guys agree.
I
But
think so. Glad to be back.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we're glad to be here. We're going to have tons more content. We'll be back here, same time, same place next week. So stick around, guys, for more of the nerdy news you need to know. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Catch you later.
Bye, guys.
Peace.